Welcome to season 3 of Creatively Free. The season is very intuitively led. I had paused episodes after last year, which was a beautiful year of doing once a month interviews of beautiful creative disruptors. And as I was planning the following season, I felt a lot of exhaustion. And it didn't feel like the right time. And so I had started to reach out and I was considering interviewing guests. And I decided I needed to pause. I had regularly been approached for having guests on my podcast. And what has come up, here we are currently in the spring where I'm located in April, where the trees are blooming, beautiful flowers, pinks and whites, and my allergies are also quite active. And so there's this energy of blooming, and I've been sitting with my own blooming journey and living in a soul-led life, which I feel is the most free way to live and is a privilege in modern society and is high risk in many ways for many people because it has less structure, it has less guaranteed success, it has learning deeply who you are and how you operate. And so sitting from that perspective, what I've been doing is just following what shows itself to me and feels aligned around what season 3 would be. And the way that that comes to me is sort of in these little glimpses of ideas, in visuals, and I just sit with them, let them simmer, which is very different than my old way of acting on ideas when I was younger. I'm in my early 40s, and when I was younger, I've always been a house for ideas, and ideas would come to me all the time, and I would almost be in idea overload. I would start lists of ideas. They were always, good ideas. Sometimes they were ideas that other people were acting on. I love the way Elizabeth Gilbert talks about ideas. I believe in her book, Big Magic, but I saw her speak actually several years ago at a conference called Emerging Women when she was launching that book, about how ideas just sort of drop in from the ethers. And if they aren't meant to land in you and you aren't honoring them and able to see them through, then they'll go out and find the proper home. And that really, just even learning that back then really shifted my relationship with ideas. And I think over the years I've developed, I used to be like, I need to make this thing happen immediately. And sometimes I still have that sense. But as my ideas got bigger and involved potentially more people and became more complex, and that they considered, more awareness that I had developed over my life around our economy and climate change and colonialism and all sorts of fun topics, the ideas began to come in a different format. And had more complexity and potentially in terms of how to make them real over time. And so I'm an experimenter in my human design. I'm an investigative opportunist. And I have other things I could reference in that in my human design system. You can look up the human design system if it's interest to you. But that has been the most alive for me lately. I'm an experimenter, right? And so the way that I do and learn and create is I come up with something, I noodle on it a little, I experiment with visuals and ideas and writing, but I don't take it all the way until I, test it out in the world and see if it has resonance and, impact others. And I'm getting, over the years, much, much better at just letting things go that aren't meant to continue, and not taking them as personal failures. Very much aligned with a lot of entrepreneurial ways of being, but then deepening into other things that are aligned. Anyhow, all this ties into season 3 and the theme of season 3, and really the intention of why I started Creatively Free. I didn't start it to be a traditional podcast. I mean, it's literally in the title, Creatively Free, right? Well, if I did this by like excessive structure or following trends, obviously that's not creative freedom to me. Some structure can be really useful, of course, and I do create that when the time is right. When we're through the ideas, and magical, sort of opening and divergence of space, and then it's time to converge and make things reality, then structure can be really useful. I just had a sip of my coffee, and I'm sharing that because the vibe, so season 1 was my poetry, it was meditations, it was whatever I felt like saying about the soul. Season 2 was beginning to co-create with other creatives in interview format, but I really wanted that format to be comfortable, and I wasn't here to, make it like, I wanted to be the antithesis of formality, of pantsuits, of, polished everything. I still want it to be meaningful and purposeful, and cut out ums and likes and such in terms of the presentation. But that was really the gist of what I was going for. I would bring my tea, and I would coach people that were on my interviews that maybe it was their first time, or they're just expanding in their business. I would really explain to them before we jumped in that this was the most low stress thing. I wanted them to feel comfortable. And I'm seeing that still be an emerging theme of what's important for me to continue, is to create safety in having very magical, potentially introverted, creative, sensitive beings that I cross paths with come forward and feel like they have a beautiful container, a beautiful space to share and know that their message will be received by others that need it. So that's what season 3 will be. I'm going to call them tea talks, because that's this playful idea that's come in lately about the same thing, everything that I'm talking about, sort of the antithesis of TED Talks, where you have to go on a stage and have bright lights in your face and, prepare for a really long time. Tea talks are the 180 opposite, where you just bring yourself and your cozy blankie, your coffee or your tea, and have a chat. And we'll talk about mystical things, we'll talk about creative things, we'll talk about the creative process, and living in more harmony with the natural world and the world around us. That's something that has become more and more emergent in my life, and more real, as my connection with nature has been deepening. So expect that, potentially some meditations as well. And yeah, welcome to season 3. Let's see what emerges.